皆様、おはようございます。スタッフの皆さん、おはようございます。そして、ご参会の皆様、おはようございます。皆様、ご機嫌いかがでしょうか。朝の方もいらっしゃるかと思いますし、もうすでに午後のところもあるかと思いますけれども、おはようございます。田辺しほりさん、おはようございます。今、16名のユーザーの方がメインホールにいらっしゃるみたいですけれども、どこからつながっているか教えていただければと思います。ちなみに私はアムステルダムからつながっているんですけれども、今現在、自分の屋根裏部屋に座ってつながっているところです。少しばかりアムステルダムは曇っているんですけれども、今朝はとてもエキサイティングでした。というのも、センタークラスという、サンタクロース、のお祝いがありまして、今日は子供は靴の中にプレゼントをもらいました。そんなわけで、朝起きて子供たちみんなワクワクしました。朝6時に今朝子供たちを起きて確認をしたんです。そういったわけで、ちっちゃな子供がいてとても楽しいです。そんなわけで、チャットルームを使ってどこからつながっているか教えていただければと思います。少しずつ始めたいなと思います。今日はこの AI人間中心の AI 第2回通徳日 AI シンポジウムの4日目に相当いたします。本日は皆様とこのラバルバーチャルグリーンセンターでご一緒することができとても嬉しく思います。チャットボックスが下の方にありますので、そちらの方を使ってどこから今皆様接続をされているのか入力いただければと思います。本日は先ほど触れました通り、この AI シンポジウムの第4日目にあたるわけですけれども、本日はプレナリーセッションを、まずは朝8時半からないしは、日本から参加されている場合は4時半からの開催となります。AI と人類の未来のビジョンというタイトルでございまして、3名のとても著名な AI の専門家でいらっしゃる研究者の方々が集まって、そしてどのような形で社会が AI 技術を取り込んでいくのか、そして人類がどのような影響をもたらすのかということに関して討議が行われる予定です。また、このプレナリーセッションが終了した後、いくつかの、パラレルセッションが行われる予定です。AI と、教育、そして簡素な AI、会社契約型 AI、そして、次に AI と法ということで行われます。皆様、新しい方が今入ってこられました。ご着席ください。そしてもしよろしければ、チャットを通じて、どこから
Make yourself comfortable, grab a coffee or take an afternoon snack. We have attendees from all over the world. Yesterday we had people from India, from the United States, from Turkey, from France, from Japan, from Germany. I see new people popping in every second. We already have 19 people here in the room. Please, if you come in, grab a seat. Let us know where you're from. Use the chat box below to let us know where you're from. This morning, I put on a new suit. I chose for a sort of burgundy red today. I see also Maho Hayashi also having a burgundy red outfit today. Well, the nice thing about being in this virtual world is that you can dress up differently every day without packing a full suit. Hi, Maho, how are you? I'm so happy that we color coordinate this morning. Dr. Shihori, good afternoon from Japan, and Lily Jiang from Sweden. Welcome. What's the weather like in Sweden today? Snow? No? Oh, wow. And is it a good snow? Is it a good snow that you can like make a snowball and throw it out there, or is it like the wet snow we don't like? Well, we'll hear. And what's the weather like today in Japan, or in the part of Japan where you are? There's a sign of good snow. Good snow. Okay. Keep us posted on the quality of the snow. We really want to know. Oh, the good thing about personally, I like the warmth better than the snow. However, if it's crisp and good snow and the sun is out there, then there's nothing like it. The fresh air, snowy mountain. So welcome. We have new people coming in. Take a seat, grab a seat, click on a seat. Oh, it's in Japan, very comfortable and sunny. I am now so jealous. Comfortable and sunny in Japan. Wonderful. Yeah, it's a little bit different than the gray Amsterdam weather today. Welcome here to the new people coming in. Welcome to the 4th day. Human-centric artificial intelligence, 2nd French-German Japanese Symposium. Impressive because 2 years ago there was the first one here. It was in Tokyo. More than 350 participants over 2 days, 63 speakers. And today, this session, there are 1,200 registered participants over 5 days, around 100 high-level speakers. The sessions, I think, have a very, very high level, high quality level. Today, visions for the future of AI and humanity, and 3 parallel sessions: AI and education, frugal AI, and AI and law. Now, frugal AI, it's an interesting one. Let me look up exactly what it is about, because when you think frugal AI, how can you do that? Because AI is probably expensive. So the outline of the frugal AI session, I will tell you more about it later. Let me see. Attracted by the advantages offered by new technologies and services, people and organizations tend to rely more and more on digital, either in their everyday life or for business purposes. The emergence of those new digital technologies and services also trigger new consumption patterns, greedier than ever in digital resources. In this context, world data creation increases year after year at unprecedented pace. The use of computational resources is also on the rise like never before, and as a result, the increasing need for digital resources, especially for the development of AI models, goes along with an increasing need for energetic resources to support them. This session will discuss how can energetic footprint of AI development be controlled and reduced. This question could be compared to the contribution of AI for reducing energy consumption. Well, that's important because we really need to look a bit more carefully after our planet. So frugal AI is one of the 3 parallel sessions later tonight or this morning. Good morning, Mrs. Broen. Thank you for sharing your voice with us. Now we have again some new people in the room. Please use the chat to let us know where you're from. And because we have already, let me see, I know this morning we were welcoming people from Japan, where it's comfortably sunny. We have Sweden in the house. where there is snow of good quality. We have Amsterdam in the house. That's me. Gray. So if you come in, we have more people here. No, that's the staff. And we have Dr. Getting messages here. Hello from France, Rebecca. We have France in the house. Welcome. And France is a big place. Where in France are you, and what's the weather like? So we have a lot of France. We have a French colony here in the Laval Virtual Green Center. Well, that might be for a reason. Welcome in the Laval Virtual Green Center. Unfortunately, we are not at the Mirai Khan. That's the location where this whole symposium was supposed to take place before the pandemic. So yeah, unfortunately we're not there, but fortunately we are here in the Laval Virtual Green Center, a new environment, a virtual environment, which with these avatars you can still look around, walk around, meet people, have more of a sense that there are real people there. Of course, it's a brand new experience, so if there's any issue you might have, just the staff and I will guide you through this virtual venue. So don't hesitate to ask the staff at the reception desk or here in the chat any question you might have. Just pose it here. Feel free, feel open. Of course, there are a couple of guidelines, but yes. So let me tell you the good behavior guidelines of this virtual environment, which turn off your microphones. Well, this is something you don't have to do in real life. Remain seated. Only moderators and speakers are able to be on stage. Well, of course, you know, in a normal conference, you wouldn't walk on the stage just like that. The good thing here is, if you have to go to the bathroom, if you want to go somewhere else, if you want to grab a treat, you can stay on your seat with your avatar and your physical body can move. Now, isn't that smart? Another thing that's even better than real life is you can zoom in on a screen. Any of the screens on stage. We have 3 main screens. You can zoom on each screen using the screen zoom in the top of your bar, top bar of your screen. Then you can use the chat to react and ask questions and let us know where you're from. So we have now another 10 people in the room. Please use the chat to let us know where you're from. And you can react with applause by using the shortcut F4. Now, I know you are all AI people, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to rock your avatar. I know I see some very smart avatars there, even someone with a great, beautiful hat on. But let's try if we can clap. Let's F4 like that. Yes, we can. Oh my God, you are such an amazing audience. Looking forward to listen to Dr. Jan LeCun. Yes, who isn't? Dr. Jan LeCun, he will be speaking here. He is Vice President and Chief Scientist, AI Scientist at Facebook, and he's Silver Professor of the New York University. I think we all are excited to see Dr. Jan LeCun speak here. And especially interested to hear what Facebook what Facebook's plans with AI are. Excited and terrified. No, we're thrilled. We're thrilled, and we want to hear it. So, good morning. I see new people again coming in. Please let us know where you're from. I'm walking to the other end of the stage, all the way at the end. And for someone who's afraid of heights, I think it's quite an achievement. So for those who did not know, this session or this whole symposium is made possible by the following three organizations. So this is organized by the Embassy of France to Japan, and I think they have done an amazing job. The German Center for Research and Innovation Tokyo, the DWIH Tokyo, and it's co-organized with the AI Japan R&D Network. I think they've done an amazing job. So many high-level speakers, so many interesting sessions. Each session is so well prepared. I really think it's something else. I've been to quite a few conferences, and the way this has been prepared is at an exceptional high level. So I think everyone can agree on that. So maybe a small round of applause for the organizers. I do one more. Hello. Yes, thank you. And we have Hideki Yamazaki. Hello again. Nice. Welcome. You are here too from JST. That's so good you are here. I hear it's nice and sunny in Japan, comfortably sunny. Well, Japan is a big country, and of course, the weather is not everywhere the same, but I hope, Hideki, that the weather is good where you are as well. So these three organizations have organized this second French-German-Japanese symposium, Human-centric artificial intelligence. Now, it's already the fourth day. We will start off with a plenary session, Visions for the Future of AI and Humanity. Now, that's a big thing. Then we go into 30 minutes of break, networking, where you can go wherever you want, but we're here to meet people. We want you to meet people, and then after the break we come back for the parallel sessions. 3 parallel sessions happening at the same time, so make sure you choose the right one for you. AI and education, frugal AI, and AI and law. So yes, what the staff is putting in the chat is very important. So if you have a black screen in the presentation, you can use the refresh button on the top right of the screen to refresh that page. So it's an important important feature. So actually, let me try. I refresh the screen. I had a black screen on my right screen was black. I refreshed it and now it's back again. Woo! Almost 25 degrees Celsius in Tokyo. I am so jealous. Goodness. Wow, I just heard, ladies and gentlemen, I have some fresh news, which you get a scoop that Dr. Jan LeCun is live from New York. It's 2:30 a.m. right now. He should be asleep. He should be asleep and he's awake for us. So, wow. Thank you, Dr. Jan LeCun. My goodness, what an achievement. That is really something special. But this whole session is filled to the brim with good speakers. And I have to say, this whole conference, this whole symposium is really, really, really well organized and well curated. Now tomorrow it's already the last session. I don't know if you've already the last day. Tomorrow is the last day. I don't know if you've already went to the booth of the Mirai Khan. If you haven't been to the booth of the Mirai Khan, please do so. I see new people coming in the room all the time, freshly dressed avatars. How many of you have changed clothes these days for your avatar? You can raise your hand like this, just to let me know if you've changed clothes during the week. I don't see a lot of hands. I do see now a couple of hands, 2 hands that have changed clothes during the week. Okay, well, I've changed clothes every day, and I also advise you to do it because it feels good. All right, I just got some advice on how to pronounce name. I hope I will do it right. So, good morning, people. Come in. If I have some new people in the room, please let us know where you're from, because we have Japan in the house, where it's almost 25 degrees and sunny in Tokyo, which is painful for me because I'm in Amsterdam. It's gray here, but I'm happy for all of you who are in Japan at the moment. We have Sweden, where there's snow of good quality. We have France, but no one has let us know what the weather is like there. So we are still waiting to hear from that. We have today the session Visions for the Future of AI and Humanity, starting in 6 minutes. And we have parallel sessions today, and tomorrow it's already the last day. So 5 more minutes before the session starts. I will go now for a couple of minutes. If you have to go to the bathroom, do it now. If you want to grab a coffee or your afternoon snack, leave your avatar in the chair, so it will be there when you come back. And see you all in a couple of minutes.
ليه لا؟
Dear colleague, Ambassador Designate Philippe Seton, dear Dr. Hiroaki Kitano, ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest pleasure to welcome you to the second French-German-Japanese symposium entitled Human-centric Artificial Intelligence. Since the first trilateral symposium in 2018, which was held as a physical meeting here in Tokyo with some 350 participants from all 3 countries, we are now meeting virtually with more than 1,100 participants. Although I am personally very much looking forward to meeting in person once again, once the pandemic is over, it is remarkable to see how quickly virtual meeting formats have evolved over the past 6 months and enable us to exchange research findings and ideas with many more people than ever before, and yet with a much smaller CO2 footprint. Artificial intelligence, AI, is opening up a new era. This new era is still in an early stage. This new era is about big data and what we can do with the data. AI is expected to become the next big thing. AI will open new business and job opportunities through technical and social innovations. There is hope that AI will contribute to solving some of the most pressing problems of our times. AI will change learning and education, healthcare, mobility, and sustainable production, just to name some of the key areas which are also addressed in the symposium. AI needs an ethical and legal framework and should, most importantly, always be human-centric. Because AI is not only a research topic, it's a societal challenge. The German government has published a national AI strategy already in November 2018, which is also available in English, French, and Japanese. Industry 4.0 and AI are flagship projects in Germany. Germany has invested a lot, especially in research and development and human capacity building in these areas. It is clear that AI cannot be conceived as a purely national project. Germany collaborates with our neighbor France in many fields, not only in AI. International collaboration with like-minded countries is essential to be among the world's leaders in this hotly contested technology. Japan is known for excellent research and provides a unique and holistic approach to the AI challenge with its concept of Society 5.0. Therefore, Mrs. Anja Karliczek, the German Federal Minister of Education and Research, focused on digitization and artificial intelligence during her visit to Japan in April last year. I am very happy to see that 1.5 years after her visit, the research cooperation in this field is now very vibrant. Another 9 German, French, Japanese R&D projects on AI will be kicked off today. Germany, France, and Japan, together with Europe and other partners of the recently founded Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, must act in concert to become a world leader in the human-centric AI revolution. I thank the French Embassy, the AI Japan R&D Network, and the German Center for Research and Innovation for the initiative to address this very important topic in this trilateral symposium. I wish you an inspiring week and a fruitful exchange among friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frau Lepel. Thank you, and welcome everybody here on the fourth day of the Human-centric Artificial Intelligence second French-German-Japanese Symposium. Welcome here. You can applause with using F4 for Frau Lepel here, and thank you all for being here. So this symposium is organized by the Embassy of France to Japan, the German Center for Research and Innovation Tokyo, the DWIH Tokyo, and co-organized with AI Japan R&D Network. Welcome here, welcome everybody to this on the fourth day. Today we have a great day again. We start with visions for the future of AI and humanity. After that, 9:45 or at 6:45 if you're in Japan, we will have a 30-minute break where we ask you to meet and to mingle. Then 10:15 or 6:15, there are 3 parallel sessions: AI and education, frugal AI, and AI and law. So this first session, visions for the future of AI and humanity. Now, in this session, the floor is given to 3 well-known researchers specialized in artificial intelligence. They will share their vision on how societies will embed AI technologies in the future and the impact it will have on humanity. The session will be moderated by Mr. Georg Löwer, the president of NRW Japan. I would like to call you on stage, Mr. Georg Löwer, and also Jean Lequin, the vice president and chief AI scientist at Facebook and Silver Professor of the New York University. Professor Dr. Andreas Dengel, executive director, Smart Data and Knowledge Services of the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, the DFKA, and Professor Dr. Junichi Tsuji, AIST Fellow, AIRC Director, Department of Information Technology and Human Factors of the Artificial Intelligence Research Center, the National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology. Mr. Löwer, please lead the session.
Well, thank you so much, Benjamin. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I just have
Excellent.
one. So there's no Professor Dengel will not be with us today.
Yes, I'll explain that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us for this important session with keynotes on the visions for the future of AI and humanity. And my name is Georg Löwer. As announced, I'm the president of NRW Global Business, the trade and investment agency's Japanese branch, NRW Japan. We are a close partner and cooperate with DWIH, and thank you so much for this great opportunity. So we have 3 speakers today, and as Benjamin mentioned just now, unfortunately, Professor Dr. Andreas Dengel, Executive Director of the
go on the stage and sit.
DFKI, he was suddenly taken ill and could therefore not join us today. So I would therefore like to ask the other speakers who are in the room to join me on the stage, Professor Lequin and Professor Tsuji, and for Professor Dr. Dengel, we are very pleased to have from Berlin Professor Dr. Sebastian Pukota, who on short notice kindly agreed to give a presentation for Professor Dengel. So, is everyone on board? Let me check. Just welcome once again, Professor Lequin, you are here, and Professor Tsuji, you're also here, and Professor Pokutta, you're also here. Yes, I can see you. So we're all there. And now it's my great pleasure and honor, step back a little bit, to introduce Professor Dr. Jan Lequin, Vice President and Chief AI Scientist of Facebook and Silver Professor of New York University. He is well known across the world. He was the founding director of Facebook AI Research of the New York Center for Data Science and of the New York Center for Data Science. He received an engineering diploma from ESIEE in Paris and a PhD from Sorbonne. After postdoc in Toronto, he joined ATT Bell Labs in 1988 and worked there since 1996 as head of image processing research. He joined NYU as a professor in 2003 and Facebook in 2013. So without much further ado, Professor Lequin, I would like to ask you to give us our presentation, and we look forward to an interesting speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. This is a new experience for me to use this platform. I hope this works smoothly. So it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm actually doing this presentation from New York, where it's 2:30 in the morning and very late at night. I'm going to talk about the present and future of AI. If I can switch slide, I suppose. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. So the first question is why should we work on AI? What's the main motivation? And really, my first motivation to work on AI was to understand intelligence, understand human intelligence, but also build machines that can be intelligent. Because as the famous scientist Richard Feynman said, we can only understand what we can build. So it's a big question to figure out how is it that humans and animals can learn. The second set of reasons is that AI is starting to get used a lot to accelerate progress in science, particularly in neuroscience, in biology and genomics, in physics, chemistry, material science, and social science. And I will talk a little bit about some of those. So purely from the scientific and academic point of view, there is a lot of applications of AI. But of course, there are applications of AI in society. And I can switch my slide again. Okay, here we go. Oops. Yeah, I'm seeing a black screen.
can refresh on your screen, right side.
Okay, here we go. I still haven't figured out how to change slide, I guess.
Just tell me next, and I will do it.
Okay, right. Yeah, can we go to the previous slide, please? I'm not sure why it's, it looks black to me. It's a black screen for me.
So you can just refresh your screen.
Oh, I see, I see.
Up to your screen on the right side.
I see, okay. Right. So the big use of AI, of course, is to, the first use of AI really is to protect lives and the environment. So there's a lot of applications that we all know in driving assistance and autonomous driving, in medicine, for medical imaging in particular, drug discovery, for designing patient care for chronic disease, for example. And of course, a lot of applications in online safety and security for filtering harmful and hateful content and dangerous information, and as well as for environmental monitoring. Next slide, please. So current applications are actually mostly in information filtering and search and ranking. This is, of course, used a lot by online services like Facebook and Google and others. There is a wealth of information and a scarcity of attention. We only have so much time in our day, and we need machines to essentially control the deluge of information that comes to us. And so we need AI to understand content so it can perform content filtering for us and sort of rank and show us stuff that we are most likely to be interested in. And this is a problem that, of course, companies like Facebook and Google are very well known for. There's also the function of connecting people with each other, and things like translation. And I've lost my slides. Oops, I'm not sure where we switched. Can you go back a couple slides again? Here we go. Okay, thank you. So things like language translation can connect people with each other. Virtual reality and telepresence are all users of AI techniques. And all of this will serve to basically make the world smaller by connecting people and erasing the cultural barriers. So this is sort of an intrinsically sort of good effect, if you want, of AI on the world. And of course, one of the primary drivers of this is to help the economy through optimizing industrial processes, automating manufacturing and logistics, connecting vendors with customers, etc. Next slide, please. As I said, Facebook, Google, YouTube, and others are big users of AI today. In fact, they are entirely built around it. So if you take the modern versions of AI deep learning out of those companies today, they will essentially crumble. They're essentially completely been rebuilt around it over the last few years. And this is, again, to deal with the information deluge. But I think there is a bigger use for this, which is the fact that we need our machines to be more intelligent so that we enable more people to actually use technology. There's basically 3 billion people in the world today who can't use technology. 800 million people are essentially illiterate and cannot use the current technology unless we allow them to essentially speak to machines and interact with them through speech directly. 300 million are visually impaired, and it's the same thing there. So what we need is technology to translate one language into another, to translate text into speech, to translate images into text, and to read text to us. Next slide, please. So all of this is built around big progress in machine learning, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. And it's based on the basic paradigm of machine learning called supervised learning. And the idea of supervised learning is that you want to train a machine, for example, to distinguish images of cars from airplanes. You show an image of a car to the machine. If the machine says car, you do nothing. If the machine says something else, then you adjust its internal parameters so that next time you show the same image, the output is closer to the one you want. This works really well if you have lots of training data, particularly for things like speech recognition, image recognition, face recognition, generating captions for images, classifying text, etc. But it requires a lot of data. Next slide. So in fact, the idea for this goes back to some original proposal by Alan Turing back in the 1950s, where he said if we want to build an intelligent machine, it would be better to build a machine that kind of simulates a child, if you want, because then the machine could learn by itself. And this is really the sort of the basic idea of machine learning. But it took many years for this to really work to an extent that could be usable. Next slide. So for me, it started in the 1980s, and by the 1990s, when I was at Bell Labs, the first thing we could do with what we now call deep learning is recognizing characters, mostly because that was pretty much the only data source that we had that we could train those systems on. And so, we could build systems that could recognize checks, for example, or zip codes on envelopes, and things like this. And there was, quite a bit of progress between the 1990s and the present day, but let's fast forward to the present day. Next slide, please. So a little less than 10 years ago, there was a bit of a revolution in machine learning and AI where those deep learning techniques, convolutional nets in particular, which I had something to do with, basically started to really sort of come to the fore and kind of take over really what all the domains, starting with speech recognition, then image recognition around 2013, and more recently, natural language processing. Those systems those deep learning systems are kind of a modern version of what used to be called neural nets, and they're essentially very large networks of very simple computing elements that perform very simple operations like weighted sums and things like that, and essentially rely on numerical computation. So to be able to run those systems, you need really fast computing engines that can do fast numerical computation. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example of the state of the art in computer vision, there's been astonishing progress in computer vision over the last 7 or 8 years, to the point that now we have neural net architectures that contain sort of billions of neurons or processing elements, if you want. They combine architectures of the type that I showed before, convolutional nets, together with a new type of architecture called transformer, which is used for kind of the more sort of reasoning part of the system. This is a piece of work done by a group at Facebook AI Research in Paris, the lead author being Nicolas Carillon. And the results that are produced by those systems are really astonishing. Next slide, please. Those systems can essentially label every pixel in an image with the category of the object it belongs to. This is called Panoptix Segmentation. And they can recognize a few hundred categories. If you specialize them, they can recognize even thousands of categories. And they're quite reliable. So the progress has been really nothing short of astonishing. Next slide, please. And of course, you can use progress in computer vision for things like autonomous driving. So every car that's sold in Europe these days is sold with an automated emergency braking system, which I'm told reduces collisions by 40%. They all use this idea of convolutional networks. It's looking through a camera through the windshield. There's been a lot of progress over the recent years in medical image analysis using deep learning. And although most of those systems are still experimental because it takes a long time to kind of get them to market with clinical trials, the results are extremely promising for things like detecting tumor in mammograms. This is a picture from some of my colleagues at NYU. And of course, it's very wide use in content filtering, which is very important in given the modern modes of communication. People use the internet and social networks and other platforms sometimes for a nefarious purpose, and you have to be able to filter things like calls to violence and hate speech and terrorist propaganda and misinformation on public health and things like that. This is a topic of very, very active research and development in companies like Facebook and Google and other social networks. Next slide, please. a little example of what technology can build. So this is what we can bring to the table. This is a project that was done in collaboration between NYU and Facebook. Facebook has no commercial interest in medical image analysis, but since we have good AI technology, we sometimes kind of develop applications just for the public good. So this is one of those, which essentially allows to collect images from an MRI exam, reducing the time it takes to sit in the machine by a factor of 4 to 8. So sometimes you have to sit in an MRI machine or lie in an MRI machine without moving for an hour, and this could be reduced to 15 minutes. That would reduce cost, it would reduce delays, which is really important in certain types of diagnosis, and of course, increase the number of people who can have the medical exam. This is all open source and with no intellectual property limitation. Next slide, please. Now, something that is emerging, and we are doing the experience of this today, is virtual reality, and virtual reality where you're actually immersed using goggles. This is enabled by AI technology. So the modern goggles for virtual reality do real-time position tracking using cameras that are on the device, selective rendering, hand tracking in real time, etc. All of this uses deep learning. They all use sort of the AI techniques that that are used also for autonomous driving and medical image analysis. They are essentially the same methods, and this will enable telepresence and perhaps reduce the amount of traveling that we used to do and we'll probably do again, but to a lesser extent once the technology is available. Next slide, please. But a big vision for the future is the possibility of having intelligent virtual assistants that basically, will reside in augmented reality glasses that will display useful information about the world to us, and can be controlled through voice and gesture, help us in our daily lives, answer any question we have, translate language in real time, etc. And the problem is that for this to be a reality, particularly in a situation where you can really interact with an agent that is not frustrating to talk to, our machines will need to acquire some sort of common sense. They will to kind of learn how the world works. And the current state of technology, unfortunately, in AI is such that we don't have such a machine. We don't even have the science to be able to think about it. Next slide, please. So this is a big limitation of current technology. In fact, there are sort of three big challenges for AI in the future, and this is kind of the topic of my own research. The first one is being able to train machines with fewer labeled samples or fewer trials. So instead of using supervised learning, I'm proposing to use something called self-supervised learning, where a machine basically learns by observation without being taught a particular task. So it's sort of a task-independent way of learning, a little bit like baby humans and animals. The second thing is getting machines to reason. So there are, of course, techniques to get machines to reason, but they're not compatible with machine learning at the moment. So there's a big question as to how we make reasoning compatible with machine learning. And the third item is getting machines to learn to plan complex action sequences, and we really don't know how to do this at all. Let me address the first point, the point 1 and 2 first. Next slide, please. So one question we can ask is, how is it that animals and humans learn so quickly and so efficiently? We learn how to drive a car when we are, 18-year-old or so, in about 20 hours of practice without hardly any supervision and without causing accidents for most of us. And there is no machine today that can approach this anywhere close, and that actually limits the power of autonomous driving. Next slide, please. So baby humans learn basic concepts about the world in the first few months of life, essentially by observation, because babies have very limited abilities to act on the world. And the amount of knowledge about how the world works that is accumulated in the first few months of life is absolutely astonishing. And this is the type of learning that we don't know how to reproduce with machines. That's what I call self-supervised learning. Next slide, please. So babies learn, for example, that objects that are not supported fall, and it takes them 9 months to learn this, to learn sort of intuitive physics, that gravity is a thing and momentum and things like that. How do we get machines to learn by watching video? Essentially, that's the question. Next slide. So I'm proposing this idea of self-supervised learning, which a lot of people have been working on. It's become kind of a hot topic in the context of AI these days. And it's the idea that you take a piece of data, let's say for the sake of example, a piece of video, and you show a piece of video to the machine and you ask the machine to predict what's going to happen next in the video. Next slide, please. So basically reveal the future of the video, and then the machine trains itself to do a better job at predicting. There are some very sort of dire technical issues that are unsolved with this problem, but the basic concept has been used with astonishing success in a few areas. Next slide. So one particular area is natural language processing using a technique called denoising autoencoders, which I'm not going to go into the details of. I don't want to get technical on you. But the basic idea is that you take a piece of text and you remove typically a few hundred words long. You remove typically 10 to 20% of the words, and then you train a very large neural network to predict the words that are missing. In the process of doing so, the neural net learns a good representation of text that allows it to essentially understand at a superficial level what the sentence means. And that's very surprising because there is no connection of that text to any kind of underlying reality. It's just text. Those systems are trained with billions and billions of sentences. Next slide, please. And they using those kind of transformer architectures, which I don't have time to explain, they really kind of produce amazing results in things like translation, speech recognition, and computer vision. Next slide, please. So what you're seeing here is an example for translation, where it's a system that was built at Facebook. It was announced very recently, just a month ago. And it's a system that can translate 100 languages into and from another 100 languages, right? So basically every pair from 100 languages to another 100 languages can be translated from each other. And the amazing thing about this system is that it does not require to have parallel text for all pairs of languages. It only requires to have parallel text for a few pairs of languages, and the amount of data doesn't need to be that large, actually. And so this system, to some extent, has superhuman performance, not because it's particularly good at translating. It's not nearly as good as humans at translating, but it can translate 100 languages into 100 languages pretty well. And so that's very important. It's been deployed by Facebook very quickly into its kind of mainstream system. To give you an idea of the size, this neural network has 12 billion parameters, which, by the standards of biological brain is tiny, but it can translate. Next slide, please. And it's open source. This is an example of a dialogue system that was also produced at Facebook by some of my colleagues. And those are dialogue systems that can talk about a picture. So you show a picture to the system, and then a human and a machine dialogue on that image. And in those two dialogues, the blue and the gray, one of them is the machine, the other one the humans, and I challenge you to figure out which is which. It's not actually that easy to figure out, and those dialogues are fairly entertaining, not necessarily very useful. Those systems, those transformers also can be trained to do things that normally would require either a program or something more formal. For example, to solve differential equations symbolically or compute integrals. And the fact that neural nets can be trained to do this is pretty amazing. Next slide, please. There's also astonishing progress in speech recognition. So now we can have multilingual speech recognition systems that are very accurate, and they can be trained with a very small amount of data, which is very useful because there's a lot of languages for which the data is very scarce. So there's a lot of data in English, Japanese, and German and French, but what about Pashto and Swahili and a lot of various dialects? People use something like 1,600 different languages on Facebook. So That's a lot. But using those new learning techniques, self-supervised learning techniques, speech recognition systems have made enormous progress. Next slide, please. I'll have a couple of conclusions. So my first message is that this idea of self-supervised learning is really the future of AI. I think is going to bring about, once we figure out how to get it to work a little bit like humans and animals, we're going to have sort of a new wave of AI systems that maybe will have a better understanding of how the world works, and perhaps will enable the construction of intelligent virtual assistants and other applications, level 5 autonomous driving and things like this. We're working also on reasoning and planning, as well as hierarchical representation. This is not as advanced as self-supervised learning for vision and natural language processing. Next slide, please. So one big question, of course, that a lot of people are asking themselves is, can we get machines to learn like humans and animals? And this is yet unanswered. Whether the current form of self-supervised learning will take us there is anyone's guess. It could take us 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, not entirely clear. One big question also that a lot of people are asking themselves is, will machines reach human-level intelligence at some point? We hear a lot about artificial general intelligence, AGI. I don't like the term because I don't think there is such a thing as general intelligence. Human intelligence itself is very specialized. We don't like to hear this, but it is the case that human intelligence is very specialized. So I think we should talk about rat-level intelligence, cat-level intelligence, human-level intelligence, but not artificial general intelligence. Will we have machines that are superhuman intelligence? There's little doubt in my mind. This may take decades, if not centuries. It won't happen tomorrow. I don't think there is any fear to have of machines taking over the world, because the idea that somehow machines will want to dominate humans is a projection of human nature on machines, and machines will have basically no reason and no drive to do this. Even within the human species, intelligence is not at all correlated with the desire to dominate. The smartest people that I've known are not the people who wanted to rule the world. This is my last slide. So AI is a so-called general purpose technology. That's the way economists call it. And it's going to affect all sectors of the economy, but it's going to take at least 10 years before we see the effect on productivity. And it's going to cause, of course, job displacement because of automation and probably technological unemployment. And the best thing a country can do to take advantage of the revolution is to basically invest massively in education and research to retrain the workforce for the new tools that are brought about by AI. This is a new revolution. Thank you very much.
Yeah, please clap. Thank you for this great presentation. This was really, if you may allow the term, mind-boggling, because it contained so much interesting and valuable information that I think every one of us was able to take quite a lot along from us. So now I would like to, we are a little bit time-wise ahead, but let me see whether we have any questions right now. One question is here. If it would be possible for machines to reason, what does this mean for the status of those machines in society? And do you take those ethical questions into consideration in your research? From a philosophical point of view, this would raise the question about the position of the machine as a subject. This is from Professor Emine Gozen.
All right, thank you for the question. So this is not something that people are really kind of worried about, other than as kind of an interesting philosophical exercise at the moment, because as I said, the technology that we have is is very primitive. So we're not anywhere near being able to build machines that will reach any kind of level of intelligence that approaches human intelligence, or even approaches the level of intelligence of a cat. Okay, we have machines that can beat us at chess and Go, and can, you know, recognize more species of plants from a picture than any human, and can translate languages into, you know, many languages into another. But those machines have very, very narrow intelligence, and they don't have autonomous intelligence. So the type of intelligence we observe in animals and humans is autonomous, in the sense that the behavior is of the animal is driven by you know, sort of basic drives, if you want, in his brain, and then the system kind of learns how to act to satisfy those drives. And so there's sort of three components to an intelligent autonomous intelligent systems, which we don't know how to build at the moment. The first component is this this component that kind of computes whether the entity is happy or not, whether the animal is happy or not. We all have that in our brain as well. It's called basal ganglia. The second component is a model of the world that allows us to predict in advance how the world is going to evolve and what the consequences of our actions on the world are going to be. And this is the most complex piece of you know, component of our intelligence, if you want. It occupies the entire front part of the human brain, and it's much more developed in humans than other animals. And then the third thing is, given that we have an objective, and given that we have a model of the world, how can we derive a course of action that will satisfy this objective, given our model? And you know, we can be intelligent by having those three things, but we can be stupid in having one of those three things not work properly. So either our objective function is wrong, you know, that could make a sociopath, for example, or we could have a bad model of the world that does not predict accurately what the consequence of our actions should be, or we may not be able to derive a good course of action that will satisfy our objective. Now, once we figure out how to build machines of this type, and they reach a level of intelligence of a cat, then we might consider indeed that they are you know, they're a sentient entity of some kind that that we need to protect. But their drives would be very different from those of humans and animals, in the sense that they may or may not be curious, they may or may not be you know, all the characteristics of different animals that we observe. They are built into them by evolution, and it's not clear that machines will have any of those unless we build that into them as well. So it's a bit of an abstract question at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Lequin. Once again, I would like to ask you all to give a big applause to Professor Lequin. I think we could actually go on for hours. We have several questions still lined up, but I must look at the time, and we have to unfortunately move ahead and to the next speaker. But perhaps at the end of the session, we can come back to some of those questions. Okay.
Yes,
so,
and I also, sorry, I want to also thank from the organization, thank Dr. Jan Lequin for being awake at 3 a.m. in New York for this session. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. One more round of applause for the amazing Dr. Jan Lequin.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, then we will now move on to not Tokyo, as this slide may suggest, but to Berlin, because Professor Dr. Sebastian Pokuta has agreed to step in for Professor Dengel. May I just shortly introduce Professor Dr. Pokuta? He is currently Vice President and Division Head, Mathematical Algorithmic Intelligence, AI in Society, Science and Technology at the Zuse Institute in Berlin, ZIB. At the same time, he's a professor for optimization and machine learning at the Institute of Mathematics, Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the Technical University of Berlin. Those of you who know Professor Fukuta know that he actually is a frequent visitor of Japan. He works closely with the RIKEN AIP team, and if we wouldn't have had Corona this year, I'm sure he would have come to Japan. But it's a great pleasure, Sebastian, to have you here with us today. Originally, Sebastian studied mathematics in Duisburg-Essen, where he also received his PhD, which was followed by his postdoc research at MIT in Boston. And before coming back to Germany, he held a professorship at Georgia Tech. So, Sebastian, I hope you can hear us now, and we would like you to start and give your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the kind introduction and having me today. So what I would like to talk about today is basically AI and for with against humanity. And that's really going to be more of an overview type talk with maybe a slightly provocative element here and there. And if we talk about, next slide, please. So if we talk about AI and humanity, I think one very important thing is to first talk for a few minutes about what we really want to understand when we talk about AI. And I think that's particularly important given the popular science discussion and the account in newspapers and articles, which is a bit more science fiction than actual reality, as we also have heard in the previous talk. And so I would like to spend a few minutes first talking about this. And I think a colleague of mine, a former colleague of mine from Georgia Tech, very nicely summarized the situation. Namely, when you hear someone, and I'm paraphrasing here, when you hear someone talking about AI and you can replace the word AI with God and the meaning of the sentence doesn't change, then you essentially have a problem. And next slide, please. And yeah, so if you look at the current popular science discussion, I think certain elements are quite dangerous. And if you think what's really going on, you might argue that due to the Enlightenment and modern science, we, in some sense, became impervious to religion. Yet on the other hand, through science or science fiction, we got this amorphous notion of AI with an almost godlike, almighty, infallible quality, and then we have these high priests, these programmers with exclusive, supreme access to an understanding of the reasoning of the machine. And so if you think about this, what we could say is, you know, on the one hand, we rejected our gods, and now we brought them back to the back door with this amorphous notion of AI. And if you talk to people, you see that there's a lot of confusion out there and a lot of speculation and imagination. And so, for example, just to give an example, a few months back, I think I was on some task force and there was this discussion going on. And then one person said, well, you know, I've been going through like 5,000 articles, papers, and writings, and I could not find a definition of AI. And if you think about this, this is really like what makes people speculate about what's going on and what this amorphous thing of AI really might be. Next slide, please. And yeah, so and one of the common scenarios that you very often hear is the so-called, what I call the Terminator scenario, which also Jan very briefly alluded to at the end of his talk, which is, you know, there will be this killer AI and this AI is going to kill us all. And if you think about where this fear or this perception or conception comes from, it's really three things coming together. On the one hand, we have had this move from a geocentric to a heliocentric and now to an egocentric view of the world, where it's always me and my story. And right now, the story is me and AI, and what is AI going to do to me or to the world or to humanity as a whole. That's one thing. And then the other thing that we have is this very natural human obsession almost to worry about imagined or hypothetical futures. And then you pair this together with this innate need We also very briefly heard about this in a different form in Jan's talk, this need of acknowledgement. So if you want to build an intelligent machine, let's say, whatever intelligence means, then in some sense, we would want this thing to recognize us in order for us to recognize it as intelligent. And yeah, so that's this one view. There's this like this Terminator-like scenario that is out there and that people are very often talking about and fear-mongering. But let me offer, and again, just like for argument's sake here, let me offer a contrarian alternative of how things might be. So suppose we build this super crazy smart AI, and I agree with Jan that we are like very far away from this. This is going to happen in the mid maybe or long-term future, but not right now. But let's suppose you can build this AI. Then it's completely unclear to me why this AI would not just walk off without any form of interaction at all. It's completely unclear that there has to be some form of interaction or even negative interaction by harming humans whatsoever. And yeah, to give it maybe a bit more of a hilarious spin, I included this XKCD comic here that makes a similar point in a slightly different way. All right, so having said that, maybe we can move to the next slide. So having said that, maybe it's useful to have a more operational and less colorful definition of what we're going to talk about when we talk about AI. And so if you go back in history, when people started to think about these things, one of the very first things that we were thinking about was, you know, if we can build a computer that beats a human at playing chess, that's actually going to be AI. And that was realized in the 90s when Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov. And then people were like, oh yeah, you know, actually that was not quite AI. That was just approximate alpha beta tree search. And then people said, next slide, please. And then people said, well, maybe, you know, maybe it's not about the sheer processing power and crunching through numbers. Maybe it's about creativity that really like is what some form of intelligence that we would like to see. And then we built all types of systems that could create artificially intelligence derived, created, interacted type of art, which was actually sold for pretty high price tags at various auctions. And then people were again like, well, you know, actually it turns out that's not quite AI either. That's just the output of a GAN. And yeah, so then people moved on. Next slide, please. So people moved on to the next thing. And then people said, well, you know, if we could beat the best human player at Go, that's going to be AI. Because, you know, you have all these critical elements together. You need strategy, you need like long-term reasoning, you need intuition, you cannot just crunch through the numbers on the board, and you need to be super creative. And then, you know, about a few years back, AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol, and that was the world champion at Go at the time. And then people said again, well, you know, actually it was not that hard. That was really not AI either. That was just a bit of Monte Carlo tree search and maybe evaluation DNN on top of that. And again, there was an explanation why this was not AI in hindsight. And can you go to the next slide, please? And if you continue this reasoning, right, then what happens is it seems to be that, you know, AI is always the thing that we do not quite know how to do today. We have some idea, but we don't know how to quite do it. So in some sense, it's an idealized limit. And I think that is probably in the AI discussion, at least for today, a more helpful construct, let's say. I wouldn't say that this is a definition. I don't think it's easy to define those things, but maybe a construct to help us to work here today. All right, next slide, please. So let's talk a bit about opportunities and what's on the horizon. So if you talk to people like Andrew Ng, and we also heard this in the last talk, there's a large number of people that thinks of AI as being what electricity was about 100 years back, and that's going to transform all types of industries. And if I would not quite go as far as calling it the next electricity, I do strongly believe that the impact of AI on society, the positive impact on AI of society, will be huge and very pronounced, and will significantly improve the human condition as a general concept here. Can you move to the next slide, please? So let me give you 3 examples where how I think how this impact could happen, and I try to pick 3 non-standard examples, but now it turns out that actually so they're in some sense they're similar to what you have already heard a little bit earlier. So one of the dimensions is I think enabling the individual. You see this already in many things today when it comes to photography, when it comes to videography and blogs. There's all these type of AI tools built in that basically allow a single person to do much more than they could have done maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And in particular, if you look at this, like here, I took the example of high quality AI translations. So what you see here is just one out of many systems, and I just pasted in some text from my homepage here on the left, and then you see the German translation on the right. And it turns out the translation is actually really good. So there, I mean, you could basically take this as it is and use it for other purposes. And why is this important? This is important because if you now have a translator that lives off translating text as a living, that person can now basically do significantly more work by doing a lot of these translations in an automated fashion, and then just doing some fine-tuning on top of that. So what you would see due to this is some amplification of the Matthew effect, so the winner-takes-all type of paradigm, because the best translator can scale significantly better by means of incorporating or interacting with an AI and partially outsourcing the basic tasks of the job. And I think that will lead to a significant enabling of the individual, because suddenly the single person can do much more than they could have done beforehand. Next slide, please. The other thing that I think where AI will be significantly impactful on society and humanity is the discovery or rediscovery of knowledge, or more generally scientific information. And so the example that I took here is the unfolding of papyrus rolls or papyri. What you see on the left, this package, this is actually how they are in the museum. So they are nicely wrapped together as a bundle. And the way of how they look inside, you can see in the middle, that's an X-ray here. So they're like many, many layers folded on top of each other. And now you would like to know what's written on those rolls. The problem with this is if you try to unpack them, they will disintegrate. So you would like to virtually unpack or unfold them. And that's basically what you can do with an AI system. And that's what you see in the lower right picture, where such a roll has been partially unrolled or unfolded, and where you can then start to read what is written on top of them. And this is just one way of how these AI systems can enable knowledge discovery or rediscovery. And there's many other things, like this decryption and translation of ancient languages, or reconstructions of lost or partially damaged artifacts and things like this. I mean, you heard in Jan's talk that this idea of imputing or continuing video sequences that you see, and in similar ways, similar techniques here could potentially be used to reconstruct lost or partially damaged artifacts. Next slide, please. All right, and the last thing, sorry, I had to take this example. The last thing, how I think that the world is going to be impacted by AI, or this humanity at large, is basically scaling through AI agents. Jan gave the example of having this AI agent in a form of glasses that you wear on your head. But there's also many different types of AI agents that I think that we will be interacting with. It could be autonomous vehicles, drones.
Ich habe jetzt die Verbindung verloren. Sprichst du noch? Okay, alles klar.
Sorry, a technical problem, I'm back. So the way of how you can think about it is like we are going to interact with all types of AI agents in our day-to-day work, and that's allowing us to scale and do much more things, or many more things that we were able to do otherwise beforehand. All right, next slide. Yeah, so far we have only talked about the positives. I think it's also important to talk a little bit about the challenges and the things that Binyak might need to think about. And I really like this quote of Deming here. It's not necessary to change, but because survival is not mandatory. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so I think one of the big challenges that we are going to face is questions around fairness, privacy, and more generally ethical challenges. And if you would see the animation, what you see here is many newspaper articles about things that have been going wrong with AI systems. And I want to be very careful with passing judgment here, because the way of how things are reported in the newspapers are typically quite limited and missing many of the technical aspects of the problem. But at the same time, they show that there is a need for a dialogue between the end user or the human that is impacted by the technology and the technology designer and user, in order to make sure that things are fair, transparent, that privacy laws are respected, and that in general ethical challenges are managed in an according to whatever standard type of satisfactory way. All right, next slide, please. And I think the other thing that would be very important going into the future is the question about workforce impact. So what we already have seen in the past with the introduction of, let's say, smarter industrial robots, that if you look at US productivity, in traditionally it has been in lockstep with employment until around 2000. And then due to the widespread deployment of industrial robots, what you could see is a decoupling. So productivity continued to went up, but employment basically become flat. And now, due to AI technology, we can basically go to the next level of automation and automate things that we were not able to automate in the 2000s, but might be able to automate in the 2020s or 2025s. And yeah, I think this is going to impact and I don't want to say destroy, but displace jobs in the traditional way, and will require new perspectives of dealing with the consequences arising from that. Next slide, please. All right, thank you very much. That is all that I had for today, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Yes, thank you very much.
So, thank you, Sebastian, for this great presentation. Perfect timing. Let me check what our time budget says. I think we would choose to combine the questions to your presentation with the presentation of Professor Tsuji at the end of the session, if that's all right. So I hope everyone can hear me. I have a little bit technical problem here. But
yes, we can hear you.
Let me
no problem.
Introduce the next speaker then. Would you bring up the slide of Professor Tsuji? So our next speaker is Professor Dr. Junichi Tsuji, ICE Fellow and AIRC Director, Department of Information Technology and Human Factors, Artificial Intelligence Research Center of the National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology, ICE in Japan. Professor Tsuji is a Japanese computer scientist specializing in natural language processing and text mining, particularly in the field of biology and bioinformatics. He graduated from Kyoto University 1973, obtaining a PhD in engineering. He became an associate professor at Kyoto University, thereafter was professor at Manchester University from 1988 and professor at Tokyo University Graduate School from 1995, as well as principal researcher for Microsoft Research Asia in Beijing in 2011, before taking on his current position as Director of AIRC in 2015 and Fellow of ICE in 2017. He still holds his professorship at Manchester University. Professor Tsuji, I see the slides are ready, so could I ask you to proceed with your presentation? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for a kind introduction. I'm the director of AI Research Center.
Ich habe leider über mein System, diese virtuelle Welt, höre ich leider nichts, aber ich hoffe, dass der Professor Tsuji jetzt spricht.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I will talk about cooperation between artificial intelligence and human beings. Our center was established 5 years ago, and we are the second phase of our research. And we established 3 different research topics, which we will focus on in the coming 5 years. One is easy to construct AI, and another one is trustworthy AI, responsible AI. And today's talk is on the second topic, that is AI, which cooperate with human beings. And we found that because our center is focusing on deploying AI technologies to the society. And when we deploy our AI technologies to different aspects of human life, we found that the lack of communication or cooperation with human being is a kind of a crucial roadblock for spreading AI technologies in the society. So unlike previous 2 speakers,
We don't hear you anymore, Dr.
Can you hear me?
Now again, yes.
Okay. So we think that 2 intelligence, that means human intelligence and artificial intelligence, are quite different from each other, especially the current AI system, which are based on big data and machine learning and deep learning, sort of based on big data, which are observed from the real world and construct the model of the real world in their system. And based on that model, AI can predict what will happen in the next stage. And based on that prediction, AI can intervene in the real world. So basically, our current AI system based on big data are based on observation from the real world. Of course, observation is always partial. We cannot observe everything in the real world, especially something which happened in behind would be cannot be observed. So, for example, we speak some utterances, and we produce some sentences in our brain, but our thinking cannot be observed. It's only observable things are the text. So many things cannot be observed. So that's our current AI system based on big data. Human intelligence is quite different. We cannot observe such huge data and construct a model. We cannot do that. Instead, we human beings accumulated the knowledge about the real world through the evolution of human history. That is like science, and we have formal education, which based on accumulated knowledge. And individual human beings construct the model of the world based on those accumulated scientific knowledge. That means we have a model of the world, but not necessarily built based on observation, but also we build that model through education or scientific understanding of the world or formal training on the jobs and so on. So the two intelligences are quite different. A human intelligence can understand the mechanism behind the data. For example, a human medical doctor can understand how diseases develop and what kind of mechanism produce some observed data that is clinical data. So they are quite different. So can you see my screen is only black screen. There is any
If you can refresh the screen.
Yeah, done.
Oh, okay. No, it doesn't. Oh, okay. So okay, so the first topic is how data-oriented AI can be enhanced scientific knowledge. Scientific knowledge have to be embedded in the AI system. So this example is from drug discovery. In drug discovery, chemical materials and protein interact, and whether these specific chemical materials can interact with a specific protein or not is a quite important information. So in order to judge whether this specific chemical can interact with protein, we can construct a deep learning model to classify the two interactions of two agents, that is chemical materials and then proteins. So the simple model is we can encode the structure of chemical materials based on graph neural network. So chemical materials have some structure between atoms, and we can encode that structure by using graph neural network. However, this naive encoding of chemical materials doesn't work so well for prediction of interaction. Instead, we can borrow the information from science. And science knows that not only elements of atoms, but also substructure of chemical materials, which are called molecular fingerprints, plays a significant role in prediction of interaction. So not just graph structure consists of atoms, but we can think of graph structure based on those fragments of substructures. So graph embedding based on those substructures can work pretty well. So if we introduce not just a concept of atoms and their structure. But if we introduce the concept of fragments and then graph embedding type of techniques applied, then performance can be improved rather significantly. And the other example is prediction of energy of chemical structures. So the simple model is we build up a big deep neural network by skimming huge data of a molecular structure and their total energy. However, this model can work well on interpolation, but cannot extrapolate their findings to the bigger molecular structures. So lower molecule, that means molecules with a small number of atoms, have a lot of data about molecular structure and energy, and we can train our deep neural networks, and then we can predict energies of new low materials. However, low molecules, but in order to extend that model to higher molecule, that molecule which consists of a large number of atoms, then the system cannot predict well. So extrapolation cannot be made by simple deep neural network. So what we did is we can use physical knowledge about physics. So molecule here can be related rather simple linear relation, and which related with molecular orbitals. And based on these molecular orbitals, we can predict energy. And this relation is highly nonlinear. So in order to predict this mapping, we can use deep learning model. And furthermore, we can compute this again, physical knowledge, knowledge about physics. We can compute the scalar value based on molecular orbitals. And this scalar value are again related with another scalar value, which are computed by molecular structure. And these two scalar values are again related, but the relation is highly nonlinear. So we can use deep neural network. So we can have two neural networks, and we train this whole system end to end. That means we have a data of molecular structure and total energy. And based on that, we can train the whole system. Then our system, let's see, this is our system, which embed physical constraints which derive from knowledge about physics. And this is a normal neural network. So you can see in the lower molecule, that means molecule with a small number of atoms, the two systems perform equally well. However, if we apply the same model to higher molecule with a large number of atoms, then the naive model cannot extrapolate their findings. Our system, which embed physical knowledge, extrapolate its finding pretty well. So that means data-oriented AI alone cannot produce a good performance. We have to intertwine scientific knowledge physicists have, and we can design our system accordingly. So that is one of things which we have to think. That means data alone cannot produce a good system if we apply our AI system to the scientific field. And the other domain we are applying our neural network approach is a sort of robot for manufacturing. This again, the first speaker talked about complex planning and also how to teach human actions to robot. So the robot can observe human actions and understand what human doing, and that understanding requires linkage of visual information to more symbolic action. And observation can be decomposed into a sequence of actions. And that sequence of actions can be applied to produce new complex plans based on this symbolic understanding of the system. So our current plan for the cooperation between human and robot is this kind of environment. So human beings and robot working together, and by observing human behavior, robot understand what human wants to do. And according to that understanding, robot will make plan to help the human beings. This is again new challenge of cooperation between two different intelligence. And the other is at the topic of explainable AI. So obviously a simple AI system which makes some judgment cannot be used in the real situation of clinical diagnosis. Doctors cannot trust AI systems which cannot explain why such judgments are made by the system. So explainability is a cue for that cooperation of between human and AI systems. So in order to do that, we have intermediary structure, which we call feature dictionary. So that means some decision making will be explained in terms of feature dictionary and show it to the human beings. So before the deep learning or current big data-based AI, human beings design the feature set in advance and then apply some kind of classifiers and so on and so forth. But our current model is quite different. So we first apply sort of AI system, deep learning system, and classify, and we analyze the classification schemes and try to quantize the features and show it to the human beings, and collecting those quantized features and shown to the medical doctor. So medical doctor can understand which what kind of features are actually affected the AI's judgment. So the difference is in the previous AI system, the feature set defined advanced in a human doctor. in this system is AI produces some judgment and try to explain what kind of feature sets are relevant to that judgment. So human beings can even discover new features which are relevant to the new set of features which may be relevant to the judgment. Also, human can understand why AI can AI produce such kind of judgment and so on. Okay, so we don't have much time. We skip this final part. But basically, our claim is current AI, in order to deploy current AI technologies to the real world, we have to solve several difficult problems. One of the difficult problems is the interaction, because the two intelligence are quite different, basically based on different principles of intelligence. So that's why we focus on interaction of the two intelligent systems. So we are very much interested in cooperating with other researchers all over the world. So if you are interested in cooperating with us, please let us know. Thank you very much.
Professor Tsuji, thank you so much for your presentation. A big applause for Professor Tsuji. And I must say we are already very long along the road of this session. Professor Lequin has already engaged actively in the chat discussion. I think we've covered most questions there. Is there any question you would like to address? If there is any question, I would suggest please in the chat now. Okay, is there any question for Sebastian Pukuta? Okay, so thank you so much for your speeches today. I think we learned a lot. We learned that there are still a lot of challenges in front of us, and we see huge opportunities out there. On the other hand, I think we also see that as a global phenomenon, AI will still take some time to develop, and we will be having many smaller or single AIs, as earlier mentioned. But I think this symposium has shown very well that there is great potential to work together in France, Germany, and Japan. And thus, I would like to hand back the main chair, Benjamin.
Thank you, Georg Löhr, for this, for moderating this very interesting and insightful session. It was a pleasure to hear each and every one of you speak. I would like to thank again Dr. Jean Lequin, who was with us from New York at 3 a.m. in the morning. I would like to thank Mr. Pokuta for stepping in, and Junichi Tsuji for his amazing talk, his final talk. Thank you all. If you
Cannot hear you, Benjamin.
After this session, after the networking break, we will go on with the session AI in Education, Frugal AI, and AI and Law. So again, if you are in the public chat, you see a link that goes to the LinkedIn event where you can find all the other speakers and you can find the PricewaterhouseCoopers report. Thank you for being here. I wish you all a great afternoon. Don't miss the Mirai Khan booth and don't miss the parallel sessions this afternoon. Thank you and have a good continuation of the day.